In this video, we will be counting down the top 10 rock and metal albums of February 2023. This month has been packed with albums from big name bands, but a lot of these bands I did full reviews for are not going to be making the cut. So, for example, Sanguisugabog, Memoriam, Avatar, and Paramore, they didn't make the cut. And you're wondering from the thumbnail, did Godsmack make the cut? And no, they didn't make it. So, now you know the answer to that question. But let's talk about 10 more albums that might be kind of underground, and some are some other bigger names. So number 10, I have Auburn by Motive Black. It's an LA-based band started by Elena Justin. I'd call this hard rock, but it blends some of the easy listening of pop music and some crushing guitar riffs. I'm thinking of something like Miley Cyrus and Hailstorm, but with elements of extreme metal, something like Ginger. So the opening track, Lift Me Up, really has some really great heavy metal riffs and a classic drum beat. The vocals range from like pop style singing to heavy aggressive vocals. And what I liked is some songs have like this grunge or like industrial influence. You also hear influence from other bands like Soundgarden or Helmet. Another song I like was called Cellophane. That was like one of the heaviest songs, very grungy type of sound, kind of like early Nirvana, like that Bleach era Nirvana. The band is different, so check them out. That's why I came in number 10. And number 9 is 3 by the Winery Dogs. This album 3 was pretty good. I like some of the songs. Xanadu, I like that one. That was a good single. And other songs, Stars, Pharaoh, I like those ones a lot. They reminded me a lot of like that mid-90s Soundgarden. So definitely check it out. It's one of those supergroup rock trios that's definitely worth a listen. Number 8, I have an album that is from a band that's kind of well known, but I haven't heard anybody talk about it. It's Blood Money Part 0 by Dope. It's a prequel to Blood Money Part 1 from 2016. Dope is a band that play a combination of nu metal and industrial metal. They came onto the scene in the late 90s. I haven't heard from them much since then. It was a fun album and worthy of making the list. It's the type of industrial music I like. It has that heavy guitar riffs mixed with lots of sound samples. The sound is a mix of the electronic and the heavy guitars. And the vocals reminded me of that like 90s alternative rock, those like raspy vocals similar to like Warrior Soul. And this album was pretty good. It was like a mix of 90s industrial and 2000s nu metal. Some good songs here like Choke, that one reminded me of 90s Ministry. They do a cover of Love Song by The Cure. That one was a lot different. That's a song that gets covered a lot, but this one, they really made it unique. And pretty good front to back. They keep it heavy throughout the whole album, and they don't let the electronics overpower the album. Sometimes these industrial bands kind of go too much in the electronic area, but they really put out a decent album. At number 7, The Good Ship Lollipop by Venomous Concept. Venomous Concept is a hardcore punk band consisting of members of Napalm Death and Brutal Truth. Kind of caught me by surprise because I just listened to this, randomly. I saw it came out, and I was expecting like some like really hardcore punk, but it was pretty different. It was kind of like modern rock, but with some heavy vocals. Now the vocals reminded me of that band Cathedral. They're like a doom metal band from the 90s, but the music has like this like early 80s new wave post punk kind of sound, and it's an album that's 39 minutes long. The songs are short, like 2 minutes long, but you get like a lot on this album. So we have some heavy stuff like Timeline that has cool thrashy guitar riffs. Then you have songs like Pig and Voices, which sound more like grunge. Again, a mix of that like early Nirvana and maybe like thrash. And then some short songs that are just like very like fast and heavy. So we have something like So Sick. It's just 2 minutes of just like really like brutal and fast and heavy metal. And then you have a song like Flowers Bloom, more like modern rock from the 80s. So overall, pretty good and a diverse album. At number 6 is Might and Power by Megaton Sword. They're a heavy metal band from Switzerland. They're new on the scene. They formed in 2018. It's their second album. They write songs about warriors and barbarians and other fantasy-oriented stuff. The sound is straightforward heavy metal. It's one of those new bands that's bringing back a classic sound. The production is very raw, but it works for this band because you can hear like the galloping palm muted guitar riffs and the power chords very well. The vocals are typical metal, something along the lines of like maybe Manowar, something like that. But you hear a lot of influence from 80s bands like Iron Maiden. Some of my favorite songs are Power, with a heavy metal guitar sound that incorporates that like tremolo picking. They also have classic heavy metal ballads like Raikazi, or however I pronounce that. They have some acoustic guitars on the song All Wicked Schemes Unite. And the song Might is just like classic like Judas Priest. So definitely check it out if you like classic metal. And number 5 is Heidevolk with Verdekeer, a band from the Netherlands. Most of their lyrics are in Dutch, and they play folk metal and Viking metal. I kind of found it by chance. I was watching random music videos on YouTube, and the song called Klauwen Vorut came on, and I thought it was pretty cool. It's just a song with chunky classic metal riffs and like guys in a bar singing. So I jotted the name down on my notebook, and then I didn't realize it came out this weekend until I watched like a best metal video from another channel. I think it's A&P Reacts, and I think he put this one at number 1, and then I remember thinking like, oh, I know that band, I gotta check it out. So I listened to the album and I enjoyed it a lot, because I usually don't like folk metal. Like sometimes folk metal sounds too much like I don't know, elves dancing around in the forest, like that kind of thing. No, this is a classic heavy metal, but the folk metal does come in. Think of like bands like The Who, that Mongolian band. It's one of the few folk metal albums I enjoyed. Lots of good songs, so check it out. Number 4, I have some of the bigger names now. I have Foregone by In Flames. This was another divisive album. I know some people thought it was a return to form. Others thought it was just In Flames still doing their 2000s alternative rock thing. But for me, I thought it was very good. I thought the album has a really good replay value. So in preparation of this list, I usually try to listen to some of the albums that came out in the month like one more time, just to see how they sit with me. And this one I enjoyed like on the re-listen, so it does have a good replay value. All the songs were very good, very memorable. My favorites were, I guess, the singles like State of Slow Decay. That's just a great song. That brings back that old school sound. Foregone Parts 1 and 2, you got that softer and heavier one, and then The Great Deceiver, really a good song, but it's worthy of making my list. And number 3, I have Love Bites with Judgment Day. They are a Japanese metal band, and it's an all-female band. They have a really big following, so when I did my review of the album, I had a lot of people like correcting me as if I didn't explain them properly, I guess. I thought of them as like a power metal band like Dragon Force, but people in the comment section made sure to let me know that they are like this all-inclusive metal band, and they mix styles of all different genres, and it's true. Although like, on the surface, in my opinion, I think that's kind of like that power metal, or supposedly like Japanese metal is this new genre that I really don't know much about. But they do have a big fan base. They're very talented. The music is very melodic. Songs are very catchy, but they don't like sacrifice like the sound. So there's a lot of heavy stuff in this. And number 2 is an album I just reviewed a few days ago, Insomnium with Anno 1696. It's a concept album about the year 1696. There was a lot of famine and witch hunts and violence all across Europe. Very dark time in history, and they kind of channeled that darkness and made a very good album. Probably their darkest in their discography. Also, consider that the band Insomnium has a very solid discography. They play melodic death metal, like that's Insomnium at the core, but on this album they're incorporating some more doom and black metal, so I thought it was very good. The album is very complex, has a good replay value. I enjoyed all the songs. I think my favorite song out of the singles was Lillian, but I also like the last song. I think it's called The Rapids. That's like one of the heavier ones. Really good album, and it's a good album to go back to. Number 1 is Warlock's Grim and Withered Hags by Hellripper. I usually don't put black metal albums on my list, or number 1. I don't really call this strictly black metal. It's a one-man band, but it's a lot of like classic thrash and speed metal, but with elements of that old school black metal. So I'm thinking mostly in the vocals, like a band like Dark Throne. But it's an album that all the metal channels have been praising it. So even if you're a fan of thrash metal, or if you like extreme metal or black metal, or if you like any type of metal, I think you can definitely appreciate this because they do have a very unique sound, and just this album is just very solid. I like it because for me, I hear a lot of influence from like that early Metallica, early thrash, early like Motorhead, and that kind of more appeals to me more. But the sound is very good, and definitely check it out. I gave it another listen before preparing for this, and the album is still solid, still very enjoyable. It just gets better every time, and so that is all. Definitely check it out. So let me know in the comments what you thought of best albums for February. Comment some albums I may have missed because it's kind of hard to listen to everything. I usually try to spend a lot of time listening to some of the bigger names for my main reviews, and then I usually try to like listen to some of the back catalog of some of these albums to kind of become more familiar with these bands. So sometimes I don't get a chance to listen to the underground stuff, but I need to try to do that a little more. So that's all. Like, comment, subscribe. See you in the next one.